Welcome to MindMakers. I'm John Kim, co-founder and CEO of Sandbird. On the show, I talk to the people who are building the future of artificial intelligence. From founders to executives to technologists, shaping the future of AI and its real-world impact. Today, I'm joined by Benny Yufei Chen, co-founder of Fireworks AI, an AI infrastructure platform that helps teams build, tune, and scale optimized Gen AI apps. Fireworks was founded back in 2022 by 7 infrastructure engineers from PyTorch team at Meta with a pretty contrarian belief at the time. Inference, not trading, is the most critical layer in AI. So Benny, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good.
Well, thank you for being here.
You said contrarian, but honestly, when we were working at Meta and Google, when we do capacity planning, it was always inference taking the lion's share. So honestly, for us, it wasn't contrarian at all. I didn't know why it was a contrarian take, but it worked out.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of these startup opportunities are the obvious or non-obvious obviouses, where from the outside looking in, it's not as obvious, but because you're at the peripheral of the change, a lot of these things you're seeing and it's very, very clear. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs find the opportunity. But it's kind of incredible to have 7 people start a company together. How do you guys pick 7, or how do you guys come about?
I didn't think it was a conscious choice. I had a lot of trust in Lin and Dima. So when the words got out, we kind of just left together.
Nice. I'm kind of curious because I think there were 3 pivotal moments in Gen AI space. Probably first was when ChatGPT 3.5 or 4-ish came about. And the next probably is on the reasoning model. And then probably the next one I like to argue is Opus 4.5 with Cloud Code, when vibe coding actually started to make sense. Before it was good for prototype, but it's not really usable at production. But I think in December, a lot of kind of AI luminaries and technologists and engineers finally kind of came to the other side that actually we should consider this. This is actually becoming real. Andre from formerly Tesla, as well as Node.js creators, and even Linus Torvalds, creator of Linux and Git, all now are vibe coding. So I think I've been telling a lot of people that if you're not already feeling this shift, and it's already happening today, you're already being left behind. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys are powering more than 13 trillion tokens a day.
Yes.
And across over 10,000 customer. Where do you think your customers are in that journey of switching to AI first world?
Yeah, I would say still very early. At the end of the day, a lot of processes are still not being automated in corporate America. But there's no reason why they're not automated. One thing that I remember reading was I think it's in the 70s, a corporate America was just picking up on email. And even email took I think a decade for that to really wash through the system. And I think for AI adoption, I still think we're very early in the adoption cycle. I would say we're there when you really have AI production engineers or AI software engineers being hired at your company, instead of just being a tool that you use to vibe code.
Right. So let's double click that for a second. You have about 10,000 customers spending 13 trillion tokens a day. Let's say if all of your 10,000 customer kind of made through that transformation, now they're become AI first companies. How much tokens do you think they'll be spending on a daily basis? Is it order of 2x, 5x, 10x, 100x?
I would say the lion's share of token usage will probably be coding, because we'll be formalizing a bunch of questions into coding problems. Probably coding and deep research at the end of the day. Finding the right context and then turning it into artifact. I really don't have a good estimate, but maybe 100 times at least. A good indicator was OpenClaw. That is a good signal of how much token usage you'll be expecting, because you're just sending one message to your bot on Telegram, but it's going to use tens of thousands of tokens to do one job.
Yep.
It's going to cost you maybe $1. I would say though, probably fireworks will be 100x, but like the aggregate demand will go up like throughout the society with like the private compute as well, like running small models on their MacBook. That will probably like 1,000x, 10,000x, depending on how far we take it. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, you guys should ride the wave. So not only 100x, you guys should go 1,000x or 10,000x.
Absolutely, yeah.
I 100% believe that because one of the things I've been doing a lot recently is actually, and we graduated Y Combinator back in 2016, and there's a few threads within YC where people are kind of sharing their cloud code or codec setup, and then kind of sharing like how many tokens they use, what does their workflow look like. And then anyone who spends more than, let's say, 100 million tokens a day, I've been trying to like, grab coffee with them, visit their office. It's kind of funny. I was trying to meet one of the founders, and he's based out of San Francisco. Hey, can we meet like tomorrow morning at 9? He's like, oh, my times are reversed. Can we meet at 9 p.m. instead? I'm like, sure. So I literally went up that day and then was there until, I don't know, 10, 11 p.m. He was spending about 1.6 billion tokens a day for himself, just vibe coding. He had like
Wow.
16 different projects going. I'm like, this is what could go wrong or well with using AI. But yeah, the velocity that's happening and the token consumption that's happening is like kind of incredible. And to your point around Claude, Malt, now OpenClaw, I think everyone will be using a lot more tokens and AI agents unbeknownst to them. Like you could be saying one thing, but you might actually be using 10, 100 agents that's working for you. Because I think average power user spends about 10 to 20,000 tokens a day if you're using ChatGPT or whatever to do email drafting. But for an engineer who kind of close the loop on the engineering work are spending at a minimum like 1 million tokens a day, right? To 50 million tokens, if not 100. That's like orders of 10,000, 100,000 difference plus. So yeah, it's like very exciting future. And to your point, I think if once the rest of the economy, the early majority, the late majority, if the vast majority of the economy start to adopt that level of mindset and framework, I think it's going to be transformational, and you guys will have a lot of growth to do.
Absolutely.
I guess before we go too deep into what you and your team are building with Fireworks AI, I'd love to just for the audience to kind of get to know you better. What stands out to me is like the Fireworks didn't just come from like a pitch deck. You guys actually were a group of engineers who already had lived at this kind of bottom of the stack, right? To you, like your point earlier, the inference was such an obvious choice. So when you were like early at this meta, deep in building PyTorch and stuff like that, how did your like early journey shape the way you think about systems, its opportunity, eventually starting this company? Like when was those like moments, like these are the pillars that made you like, I got to do this company?
Yeah, I think going back to the history lane would be helpful. So I was more on the ads team, the consumer for PyTorch when I was at Meta. And I started working on, when I was at Meta in 2017. They wanted to have sort of like a TPU equivalent project. So I started working on Intel Facebook collaboration for ASIC for Inference. In 2017, I think it was still a very novel and interesting chip. I always tell people that chip was, I think, 17 watts per chip. Now 17 watts probably even will be like a peripheral on the GPU if the GPU is 1,000 watts. But yeah, that was exciting for me because I started understanding a little bit more what people abstractly call supply chain, which comes out to be a lot of little vendors that you have to work with for different parts and then like assemble everything together. And that because it was an inference chip, we had also different parts that would optimize specifically for inference. And there were a lot of physical constraints that I didn't know before I had to do the embeddlement, like the data center layout, like where do you place it? Like how do you space it out? What kind of networking topology that you need? That was eye-opening for me on like how difficult the real world is.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 2 years, NVIDIA back then it was still a small company, believe it or not. And it was
making video game graphic cards, but yes.
Yeah, but A100 was the first like breakthrough, I think, like the real one where like, oh, it doesn't make sense to build ASICs. Like GPUs in aggregate are much cheaper. So then I also helped work on enablement to move the model onto A100s. And believe it or not, people, don't remember a lot now, but like A100 used to be 40 gigs. So the HBM, we thought like, oh, 40 gigs, that's plenty. And then the Gen AI wave hit. It's like no one's thinking about 40 gig HBM anymore. So I did a lot of work on enabling serving models or like inference models for ads for Intel chips as well as NVIDIA chips. Then fast forward in 2022, we're like, hey, like AI infrastructure is taking off. Let's build something, right? And that's when we're like, oh, it's so obvious that we should focus on inference.
Wow. Wow. And again, 7 founders, all very infrastructure heavy, come from the same team. It seems like almost everyone, right?
Yeah, I was
PyTorch?
on the consumption side for PyTorch. Another co-founder was on Facebook feed, and then one was from Vertex. Rest were the core PyTorch team.
Yeah, so because like most investors or outside looking at it might find it like risky, like everybody came from similar company. Imagine like it felt again very obvious to you. Like what did you see inside Meta that really made Fireworks feel like that natural next step? Like I gotta start this company instead of keep being at Meta, for example.
I had a lot of trust in Lin and Dima.
Mm,
Lin was the director for PyTorch, and Dima was one of the core contributor.
mm,
That level of trust, I think, is very useful. And most people on the founding team had a lot of trust in both of them as well.
mm.
So it wasn't a hard choice, to be honest. The other thing that helped is I really don't think it's that much of a risk right now to build startups, honestly. If you're good, even if nothing works out, it will probably end up being an acqui-hire. So like at the end of the day, honestly, if you're good, what are you waiting on?
Yeah, statistically that's not true. Most companies die, but I agree.
Yeah.
That's why I think a lot of us lunatics end up starting their own companies and like manage to survive for a few years and get somewhere. So I'm on your side, but just look at the stats. I'm like, yes. So you guys obviously have a bunch of deep technical backbone, like expertise. How does that impact your kind of culture of the organization? How you make decisions about product, which direction you're taking? There are other group of founders who are like very non-technical, like, hey, let's talk about business, talk to customers. Like, how do you guys build your company?
We definitely build ahead of marketing quite a bit. We are very focused on the deep technical problems that would move the industry, and then deliver the custom value. Then we think about how to market, which I would argue actually is not super healthy. But we are very focused on deep technical problems that would move inference and training for Gen AI. I would say culturally, half the leadership team is Eastern European, and I think it's very, very healthy for a infra company because we need honesty. We need to make sure that all the execution is on point and make sure that we are honest about what's achievable and what's not achievable. At the end of the day, we want to give our customer the best experience. And that kind of honesty runs through the system and it's very helpful.
Interesting. So it's almost like a two different culture kind of coming together to bring that quote unquote intellectual honesty.
Absolutely.
Interesting. How do you guys like get your first customers? Do you just go out and do founder selling, or did you know friends, or was Meta your early customer? Like,
Oh, we had a lot of ex coworkers from Meta. They were very, very helpful in our initial selling journey. We also had a lot of customer who trusted us, and I really appreciated that because they trust the PyTorch team's technical capability in general. After the first few times we were able to deliver, we sort of start build this flywheel. Yeah, I definitely really appreciated our early customer who trust us a lot.
nice. Compared to your early years, how have you been spending time back then, and how has that changed now?
Early on for fireworks, there were much more experimentation. You don't know where the demand is. You are sitting in the room with the rest of your co-founders and be like, what can work and what wouldn't work? And initially, it was a PyTorch training platform where we supported people doing recommendation systems. And then ChatGPT came,
Mm.
right? It sort of like rocked the whole world. And we had to make a decision on whether we pivot towards Gen AI more. And I remind people, like, now it seems obvious in hindsight, but back then the open source of models were Llama. No, it was Falcon and OPT, I think, and maybe Llama 1. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it was
Feels like a long time ago.
yeah, it absolutely is already a long time ago. 3 years in AI is probably like a 3 decade. But I want to remind people, back then it was very hard to even hold a two-turn conversation. If you can get the model to chat with you for more than 10 minutes, you already have a god level model. So it was not very obvious at all to bet on open source models. So now it is much more clear. Open source models are here to stay. We are very focused on executing on top of open source models and help businesses get more value out of open source models. So I think the certainty has increased quite a bit since the beginning. The experimentation phase, I think it was very fun.
Yep.
At the same time, it was sometimes gruesome when you build something that no one wants. So
Yep. I know the feeling. So I think looking back now, what do you think, and maybe I think you answered a little bit here, but what did you see early that the rest of the market was kind of underestimating almost like, wow, and then you guys saw this as an opportunity. Maybe that was Inference. That was the open source model. Where do you think was that alpha that you guys really kind of built your competency around?
yeah, I would say believing in open source is also kind of very obvious for the PyTorch team, but may not be so obvious for a lot of people. We internally at Meta build a lot of open source and rely on a lot of open source. And it is a very effective way for a certain set of verticals to do their business. And I think for models, it is a great way to do go to market, and I think it will continue to happen. But I always talk with my team on like whether that insight can be an alpha. I think it actually is very, very questionable in the industry where the rounds are like 100 billion or something. Given enough money, I don't know any insights can be alpha. So I think it definitely helped us a lot as an insight, but it's a very, very competitive industry for sure.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's like every day, every week, you just open or read like X or something, and something new comes out, and the world changes. And the moment you're like not connected and not reading what's happening, you just feel like it's a different world every week.
Absolutely.
So to your point, but we'll a little bit talk about the mode and alpha later. But now that, especially with this whole vibe coding or agentic engineering, a lot of these costs of production is, quickly converging towards a zero. The speed of execution is becoming immensely faster. Again, seeing these founders spend 1 billion token a day, but vast majority of them are still trying to figure out product market fit. So it means they can go in many different directions a lot faster, or wrong direction very fast without any convergence at all. So how does that impact your business? Like in terms of like Inference accelerating that reality, or even potentially creating even more greater chaos. I don't know if internet wants more of open cloud or whatever taking over the entire traffic of the internet. Maybe we do. Like, where do you guys fit in all of this story?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're here to help businesses scale so they don't scale into bankruptcy, because scaling on top of frontier models are extremely expensive. We are all running so fast, and we're trying to find product market fit very quickly. And it definitely makes sense to try to find product market fit on frontier models, because time is your most valuable asset. As these businesses scale and try to automate more of their processes, it is very difficult to scale on top of frontier models. They're so expensive. And for us to help the businesses flourish, we have to help their gross margin. So at the end of the day, we bring down their total cost of ownership. They are able to have better businesses in the long run, more sustainable business in the long run. But I think the other thing you hit on, which is like the competitive landscape, right? everyone is leapfrogging each other on a timely basis. Like I think it was like the Lex Fridman one where like I think Nathan Lambert was saying like the latest model is the best model.
Yeah.
Whoever releases yesterday has the best model, and whether it's like chaos in terms of on was like does the internet need more open claw, or like chaos is in like it's very hard for buyers to commit. I think that mentality is always there. You don't know where the best model is coming from. And one thing that is definitely contrarian for me is like there are more people building frontier models today than before. And you would expect it to be an expensive endeavor, but turns out there are people willing to fund it. So it's very, very hard for buyers to pick which model to go for. And it's important for Fireworks to maintain a healthy and big portfolio of different models for people to pick from and sort of build more trust with people in the long run that way.
Yeah. It's like this recursive or fractal nature of the analogy is, during the gold rush, you sell pickaxes and jeans, but frontier models are kind of pickaxes and jeans. But other companies are building pickaxes and jeans to, I guess, use pickaxes and jeans to, do gold rush. So it's like almost this recursive nature of all of this software. And while the entire market obviously is like fighting over, we want to invest in OpenAI, and now Anthropic's raising, it's like everyone's like raising all the time. And you guys are kind of like scaling behind the scene under the hood. Like, is that your strategy? Like, how are you thinking of using this market as a tailwind for you guys? And also one kind of added question to that is, do you actually see a lot of customers switching between different models? Or is it just actually because the cost of change is actually surprisingly higher that customer end up choosing one model and just sticking to it for a long period of time? So kind of two-layer question. But
yeah, I would say the biggest tailwind is we don't need to spend a lot of time justifying value of AI or like why the business should be doing certain things. We have a lot of inbounds often, and the inbounds can already clearly articulate the pitch even before we do anything. They can clearly tell us, hey, here's what we need, here's what we know you have. Can you help us do X, Y, and Z? We definitely still have a lot of work to do on go-to-market, but our go-to-market has been up to this point heavily inbound driven and has a lot of product market fit on day one. But I do think that tailwind also means our buyers are often very sophisticated. So for them to decide when to switch to a model, they often have evaluations in-house, and they are driving the decisions on when to switch and when not to switch. So I would say that there are definitely a lot of people on the market who are sticking to one model and never change because they don't have either the time or the expertise to iterate on system prompt for a new model. But for a lot of people who use a lot of tokens, they definitely have demand to be able to switch to the latest model immediately. And we are also here to help those developers as well.
And speaking of like evaluation, I mean, for us, we're still like cautious because we are B2B. Our customers using our AI agent to serve their end customers. But when there's a change to model, it doesn't always like, if you just flick a switch, it gets better. You have to like sometimes reprompt a lot of things. There's some regressions and stuff like that. So it can be quite stressful when you have a lot of customers that are like massive traffic consumer businesses, that any change can dramatically change the resolution rate. Even 5% change in resolution can mean lots and lots of dollars for them. So actually switching the model was not as easy. So to like very carefully test and eval and all that. And I think you guys spearheaded this thing called Eval protocol. I was kind of curious, like, how did that come to be? Is it getting good adoption? What was some of the surprises, like in a good way or bad way? Like, how's that going?
Yeah, we started working on Eval protocol because when talking with our customer, we find a larger majority of them don't have evals, and that it's very recent. Still, a lot of people don't really have evals. So helping people set up a evaluation framework for them to even be able to pick models, that was very important for us. On top of that, when businesses have evals, we can help them set up reinforcement learning pipelines much, much more easily. And they are able to derive values from open source models much faster that way. Before sort of you were talking about O1 being a seminal moment. Before we had like O1 style, I would say like reinforcement learning based on verifiable feedback. The conversation is always, hey, can you find a team of 10 labelers to come up with like 2,000 rows of high quality data so they can so you can use open source models. And that bar is incredibly high for most companies to meet. Because in that statement, you're implying one, they know how to source labelers, two, they know how to define high quality, three, they can do it at scale. And they probably have a team of like at least 2 or 3 machine learning engineers who can shepherd the labeling process, right? That's very, very heavy-handed. With the reinforcement learning on verifiable feedback, it was much easier for those businesses to ask their engineers and their product managers to be like, hey, can you formalize what is a good experience for our customers? Maybe it is some language models judge setup. Maybe it has to run through the agent, but it was a coding problem. And the coding agents are getting better every day. So then the entry point becomes much, much lower over time. And it was definitely easier for us to propose reinforcement learning as a way for people to onboard onto open source models. And the target audience is growing every day as coding agent gets better. I do think the adoption could be much better. I think like Fireworks is a small shop and we're putting our name behind Eval protocol, but it does take a lot of work to do open source. But one thing that I do appreciate is within the leadership team, people appreciate how hard it is to build an open source project. Things are not valuable when you give it out for free. They're not automatically valuable. And also there's so many free stuff on the market. It takes work to make sure your free stuff is better than other people's free stuff. So we will continue to invest in it. I do think there's still a lot of work to do for us to figure out how to best serve our customers. But we're very bullish on reinforcement learning because coding is getting easier every day, and coding getting easier means more people can do reinforcement learning.
Yeah. Switching gears to moats, we kind of briefly touched on it. Are there any durable moats left? I have some thesis. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I'm sure there are other blind spots too. People say it's data, but it's not just like data. It's proprietary, so inaccessible from outside world. Data that refreshes constantly, that has value to the customer. A good example is personal healthcare. If you have personal healthcare data, it is valuable to you. You probably don't want it to be exposed to the outside world. And you age, unfortunately, so you constantly get refreshed. So things like that, right? Other things that are like direct customer relationship, speaking from B2B perspective, when you meet like this, when you have food together, yeah, maybe some people will want like an amazing looking robot to have your lunch with you. But I think most people are like, oh, like have a lunch with a human, have a conversation, buy from people you like and know. And then third might be what I call the finite of something. There's a big philosophy I'm thinking about this, but things that are finite in value. What I mean by that is like craftsmanship, right? Expensive watches or whatever those things are that are just irrational, but they're limited. So it has some kind of social value or brand value. So fine dining experiences, yeah, same calories, but you cherish them. And these are outside of AI. These are still could be considered moats and even greater moats over time.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, like, what are some of the moats left in business?
I think the second one you were talking about basically boils down to trust. And trust is very important for Fireworks. And I think will continue to be very important. Even in a world where all the software can be built by bots, I do think they still take time. And whether I can offload the work to a vendor that has this working setup that I can use immediately and get very fast time to value, that requires initial trust to believe that this vendor can give me fast time to value. I do think that trust between people and businesses will continue to stay. And that trust sometimes will be built offline, face to face. Sometimes that involves building infrastructure that really doesn't fail. Sometimes that involves responding people on Twitter and be like, hey, we found this issue, we're fixing it. But I think that's also very hard to fake. Because at the end of the day, people watch you for your consistency.
Yep.
And if you're not consistent, it is very, very hard to win people's trust.
Wow, that's actually a really interesting point because trust is a moat. There's a book, Eric, founder and CEO of Zoom, actually recommended this book called Speed of Trust. The reason it's called Speed of Trust is the moment you have high trust, everything starts to speed up. You're like, okay, if that person said this is good, it's probably good. So you almost skipped a rigorous due diligence process. Even when top investors get reference or referrals from a founder they really like, they're gonna like look at those companies, right? When you refer candidates to Y Combinator or companies to other programs, like, based on where that's coming from, the warm intros, they'll go straight to interviewers or stuff like that, right? So trust lowers the cost of everything, like speed and everything. But I guess in the era of AI, is human-to-human trust more important, or is there a world where AI needs to trust other AIs through some form of a trust scoring system? Like CloudBot, can I trust these other Claude, or sorry, OpenClaw? I think I like the CloudBot name better, but is there like a trust credit score for AI agents?
It's an interesting question. I think the crypto bros are right about one thing, which is in the digital world, the trust, I think, should be more formal. Like, should be like proof of work or proof of ownership or proof of something. For a bot, they should be able to prove they've done something, and they should have a clear track record of they doing something well. So I think these are different creatures. Like I think bots are not. What's the right way to put it? I don't spend a lot of time amorphizing because I forgot what's the right word. Like, I don't treat them as human.
Yeah.
Because it's
anthropomorphizing.
Yeah. But I do think for digital beings, they can probably have better ways to build trust than human. But at the end of the day, I do think building more relationship with our businesses and building more relationship with our customers, those won't go away for another few decades easily. Because even though bots can be capable, they still need managers. This job scholar is still gonna be human for about, I would say, 10 years.
You think so? 10 years?
10
That's
years,
a long time.
10 years is a long time.
So it would be
That's
like
why I paused. I was like,
that's like 100 years in the AI world.
Yeah. And then we'll figure out how to build trust with bots. But for now, mostly building trust with our customers.
Yeah, my guess is bot will actually come up with the idea to how to evaluate trust among them, and will let us know. I'm like, oh, cool. It sounds like a great idea. Let me know how it goes.
Oh, this is a really cool question. This is a really cool question. Thank you.
I don't know. Shower thoughts. My favorite subreddit. So I love the movie Interstellar. And the particular scene that was really impressive, not just a black hole, was, when they land on this planet, there's a massive mountain in the back. Have you seen the movie by day? Yeah. So there's a massive mountain. And then they realize, holy cow, that's actually not a mountain. It's a tidal wave, right?
Yeah.
So he's kind of like wipes everything out. I think this first impact of AI is going to be removing or replacing a lot of this repetitive digital work.
Yeah.
Do you think most companies' leaders actually have like intuition or understanding about the impact of these tidal waves? Or are we just like still staring at the horizon? Or where do you think your customers are on the spectrum?
I think a lot of our customers are very AI forward, and for a lot of big like Mac 7 like leadership discussions, I think they are seeing the wave of the tidal wave of automation coming, and there will be big layoffs. Now, how to reskill the people people who are laid off fast enough so they can upskill to more valuable jobs. I think that's going to be a big challenge. But I do think a lot of people at this point do see the tidal wave coming. I think actually I'm almost I almost take the other side, which is like the consensus are so strong right now. I think probably 6 months ago, people haven't seen Opus 4.5. They don't feel the tidal wave. I think now they're finally seeing that on the horizon. And there's an incredibly strong consensus. And I think the model will continue to improve, but I don't know if at the end of the day, these bots need managers, right? Or maybe they don't. I don't know, but like
Another clawbot being manager of other clawbots.
it could be, yeah. But I do want to flag one thing, which is like the bots are still hallucinating in surprising ways. Like the example you were talking about, like dropping a table. Even a intern, for whatever reason, would not do that.
Intern
May, but like it's like at
good
least
interns don't.
Yeah, at least their intent is not to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe they unfortunately do, but I still think the bots are hallucinating in surprising ways, which still maybe it's the same thing. It's like the people just don't trust it enough yet. Maybe in a year, but I still love to see when the bots stop hallucinating in surprising ways. And then maybe it flips over and then like you don't need managers, but we'll see.
Yeah. It's like goldfish with amazing IQ. It's like constantly forgets, but it's so great in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, but how can you make the mistakes? Like, sorry, I didn't know. I'm like, what? But you're so smart. Interesting. Okay. My kind of like theory, or I guess if you think about the primary constraints of humanity right now when it comes to AI, people talk about compute, energy, everything's the energy problem in the grand scheme of universe. But right now it's the compute and energy, right?
Yeah.
My kind of working theory right now is like the talents or organizational constraint used to be like headcount, skill set, knowledge, experience. I think it's now actually being switched to curiosity, agency, and energy. And energy is like similar to a computer, right? Or AI.
Yeah.
So curiosity and agency is kind of the compute portion for humans. Because I believe a lot of knowledge and skills will be, we're going to be the second smartest being on this planet. And if you think about how we look at chimpanzees or monkeys, we're like they're cute, but we don't consider them as like, oh my God, they're so smart. So AI will very quickly think of it as like, humans are cute, but like, don't try to be smart. Like that's not your forte. Just like, I don't know, win in arm wrestling or go pick strawberries. But so
I like where this is going. Yeah,
right?
Please continue. Yeah,
Is it a doomer? Or anyway, so curiosity, energy, and agency. At least that's what we're constrained by today.
Yeah.
What are you seeing within your company or even with your customers? Like, how do you think about talent archetypes? And how do you kind of empower your employee? How do you work with your employee who are kind of shaping this future?
So yeah, I think that those two questions are very interesting. For a customer, maybe it's similar to us, but our customers are very time bottlenecked. I think both curiosity and energy sort of like time, because people don't have time. So then can you quickly find the shortest path to market? That's very important. We're also here to help save people's time. So yeah, a lot of like the application market is very, very competitive. There are a lot of people trying to compete on market share for all sorts of different verticals. So we are here to help them save time. They are also on a mission to sort of efficiently automate everything they have on our platform as well as in their businesses. In terms of like the employee fireworks and how to guide them, I do think it is now much easier to be a 10x engineer than before. Because even for 10x engineer, there are only so many sessions of Claude that you can run concurrently before you yourself lose track of who's doing what.
Yep.
I think then the difficult part is to how to bring the other 90% to be those 10x engineers. Because I think a lot of people are very productive without a lot of guidance. But I think helping people use the tools efficiently and sort of like instill like don't try to do ad hoc work, like get the bots to do the one-offs, like write down your agent skill so then the bot can do it next time. Like that kind of discipline is very important.
Mm.
And I think that will continue to be important in the foreseeable future because yeah, I always try to tell people like I'm not trying to make you on the hook for this. You should make a bot to be on the hook for this so I don't have to ask you next time.
Yeah.
So every time someone says like just ping me, I'm like, don't. Like
Yeah.
please don't.
Ping your digital twin. Right. So one of the things that I've been again thinking a lot about is like how do we create a loop and extract ourselves out of it, right? You mentioned 10x and 10x engineer for like very controversial topic not too long ago. Now it's like, of course you'll have 100x engineer, 1000x engineer. If somebody's spending a billion token versus you spending a million token, that's 1000x token.
Yeah.
Even if half is like waste, you're still like 500x of something, right?
Yeah.
So how do you like unlock that? And only real way to get to a billion token a day is to not be in that process or not be part of the loop. You have to extract yourself out of it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like this mastering. It's like the airbender. It's like a loop bender. You have to constantly figure out how do I design. If you think about the entire workflow, let's say a CSM or finance or whoever recruiting, are there process in there that you can create into loops there where AI agent is operating based on some markdown files and rules or skills?
Yeah.
And you extract yourself out of it. So the entire process become loops that continue to evolve and improve based on feedback, like recruiting, for example. It's like, well, I really like this candidate, but I'm looking for this. Then this should be part of the markdown or whatever agent. So next loop becomes slightly better and better and better.
Yeah.
So you pour in a million candidates, outcome is slightly better qualified candidates that really cater to that person's taste.
Yeah.
So it's all about creating loops.
Yeah, absolutely.
At what point you inject yourself? Is it at the end, beginning? So kind of like thinking in that direction. Other thing is somebody has to really take that leap of faith of dangerously skipping permissions. Like if once you cross that bridge, you're like, this is so good, you can't go back. But that can drop tables.
Yeah.
So like creating guardrails around this type 1 way or this universe type 2.
Yeah.
There are like so many things to think about in terms of how to design work.
Mm.
How do you think about training people to think through the lens of AI first work? What are some of the tangible things that you've been trying out that either work or have not worked?
Yeah, I would say like the thing I mentioned for like making sure there's discipline for not trying to put yourself on the hook for repetitive work. That has worked quite a bit. I think what hasn't worked is really if it takes longer for you to unhobble the bot, it's not worth it right now. I remember I was in a seminar listening to the researcher who built Office QA, one of the like more recent benchmark. And I think that benchmark is docs from Fed, and there's a lot of charts in there. And for the agent to be effective today, they have to ideally use the chart that's digitized. For example, like instead of having a chart of data points, you just want an array of numbers. And that way the agents can be useful. And we have so much vision capability. So much of our workflow still relied on vision that I think there's still some work to do. But I bet like in a year or two, like they will fix all the vision issues and we'll do better. But I do think that's not where the focus is. A lot of focus is still like CLI, coding. And at some point, I'm sure we will run into a wall and we have to go back and fix the vision capabilities that, I mean, unless it can read PDFs and slides like we do, how does it automate the part of my day that involves reading PDFs and slides, right? I think other than that, we have way more, like other than the vision part, we had way more success than failure in terms of like whatever we would try to automate. Like I was trying to show one of my colleague yesterday, and he was like, he's not agent pilled. So I was trying to like, yeah, you can really do this. And he was like, oh, I haven't tried this before. I didn't know it's possible now. And he was laughing at me and be like, in the beginning, it's like, you're crazy. Like, there's no way that a bot can do your on-call work. I'm like, look at this. Like, it's able to do it. And like, so it does also like making sure the leaders in different organizations sort of repeat and show people that it is possible is very important, because they are also looking for consistency. They need to build trust with the bots to be able to like buy into your process on like automating everything. And then you have multipliers in the organization to help automate it. So yeah, just like be consistent, reiterate, and like repetition is very valuable for human. Honestly, it's like you have to repeat it over and over again.
Best way to learn,
Yeah.
surprisingly, is repetition. Yes, with the right cadence. I think that's really interesting, the vision portion, right? I think the Feifei's World Lab, a lot of these companies are trying to create some vision or physical AI that kind of understands spatial knowledge, spatial intelligence. And if you think about, my guess, a lot of our vision came from adding our ability to survive, like throw rocks or count things to figure out how many rocks I can throw. You know, a lot has to do with like even mathematics. I do think came from originally from this concept of vision, right? To survival skills. Like how many bananas do I have so I can live through the day? So I think there could be some fundamentally different approach to building this vision AI from ground up. I mean, still could be a form of neural network, but the overall structure, the input, the data sources could be slightly different. And I wonder how much of this stereo vision could be also a differentiating factor versus a mono vision. But anyway, hopefully somebody figures that out that makes a lot more money and I don't know, can buy us drinks later. I guess question, we like to end each of our episode with a more personal note to uncover our guests' secret desires. If you've seen the Lucifer TV show, never mind. Okay. If you had access to ultimate, all-knowing LLM or whatever model, vision model, free of hallucination, no privacy concern, and you can use to make it something easier or better for you in your personal or professional life. It's like a genie, but AI. What would be your one prompt?
What's the end game screen?
Oh,
so yeah, I think before the podcast, I was talking with John on like John had a lot of experience on gaming earlier. But yeah, I want to see the end game screen for the universe. And honestly, if you give me a robotic body, I'll probably just sit around and wait for the end game screen, because I'm curious. Like for me,
several executive director, whatever, visual arts.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like it's like Star Wars, right? At the end, like the credits will roll.
What if it's just one person like God? I'm like, oh dang it.
But that will still be fun. I want to see the end game screen. Maybe the end game screen is just silence, and that would also be fun. But I want to see the end game screen. I don't know if the bot will ever know though. So we'll see.
Oh, there's a great movie called Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy.
Yeah.
Answer is 42.
Yeah. 42 would be a bad answer. So
right,
like...
you think so? Was that a spoiler for the audience? Okay, Benny, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here. Thank you so much. And from your story of starting Fireworks with 7 co-founders, which again is very, very rare, and then Inference really quietly reshaping, or actually very loudly reshaping the art of the possible. Just really want to thank you for sharing your thoughts openly with us. Hopefully that inspired a lot of our audience to think about what's coming with AI. And really can't wait to see how you and your team really innovate the future and raise a lot of money and get acquired for billions of dollars and come back and buy us a nice bottle of whiskey or wine. But thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.